If you're thinking about buying in New York City and you're a first-time buyer, and I don't mean a first-time home buyer, I mean first time in New York City, then you're going to want to watch this video because buying in the city can be very different than anywhere else, and I have 5 important tips that I will share with you. Tip number 1 is you should be considering co-ops. I frequently hear people say that they only want to buy a condominium when they first start looking in the city, and that's a mistake. And here's why. Co-ops represent approximately 70% of the housing stock, so you're really limiting your choice. There are differences between a co-op and condo. Most people know about the dreaded board interview, which frankly isn't dreaded with most buildings. If you have gotten that far, they have probably already approved your financial package, and that's really where the decision is made on whether or not you are financially qualified to purchase in the building. And the interview is just a formality at that point, so don't worry about that. The second thing is that people get concerned about whether or not they can rent out the property. Co-ops vary. They have all different sublet policies, and all you need to do is find out in advance what is the sublet policy for the building. So for example, say you're going to live there for 3 years. You know you're locked in for whatever reason, and then after that you're not sure and you want that option. Well, then you're going to find a building that lets you rent after 2 to 3 years. Now overall, co-ops generally trade at a lower price per square foot than a condominium because there are some restrictions inherent in their usage. So you want to be considering those if you want a good price. Tip number 2 is you need to understand what goes into your monthly payment. And if you're confused when you're looking online at the start, I don't blame you. One building will have 1 payment, another building will have 2 payments. Here's why. Co-op has 1 payment, condo has 2 payments. Condo is real property. So you will have your own tax lot, your own real estate bill. Now, all buildings, you are going to pay a portion of what it costs to run the building, whether that be the staff, emptying the trash, the water bill, all those good things keep the building running. And in a co-op, it'll be determined by the amount of shares you own in the corporation, which are allotted to your apartment. In a condominium, you are divided up by the percentage owned in the building. And that's how they determine how much you owe every month. So when you're looking at a co-op, monthly maintenance includes your real estate taxes. When you're looking at a condominium, you are going to have what they call common charges, which is your portion of what you owe to keep the building running, and you will have a separate tax bill. Tip number 3, I want to get this out of the way up front so you are not miserable and stressed when it comes to your closing. Closing dates are not set. Your purchase contract will say on or about a certain date, and that date can change by up to 30 days. So you're going to want to do 2 things. 1, be very flexible and do not schedule your movers until you are confirmed for a closing date by your real estate attorney. And the other thing you want to do is stay in close touch with your agent and banker about when that closing is. So if you have a mortgage rate that you have locked in, which will expire, they can work with you to move up the closing, which isn't always possible, or extend the rate. Now, all of this is not designed to make your life miserable. It's just because when you're buying in a building, there's so many different parties to coordinate between the managing agent, the building's attorney, your attorney, the seller's attorney, and the payoff bank. All of these people need to be able to meet at the same time, and that can cause delays. Tip number 4, mortgages have one extra hurdle in the city than they do if you're just buying a single family house, and that is that the bank underwriter will need to approve not only you as the borrower, but also the building. Your mortgage banker will know that up front, whether or not a building is approved. They can look at that. So if you like a building, you're going to want to find out right away. A few of the things that can be a red flag. Mostly they don't want one individual, whether that be a sponsor or an investor, to own more than 10% of the units in the building. That's not common, but it does happen from time to time. Additionally, many banks will have a rule that they will not give a mortgage in a building if that building is not at least 50% owner occupied. Don't ask me why, that's just the rule. So you want to find out those things in advance. 5th tip, I want to share some insights into the available housing stock in New York City. You come to this city, it's this big, huge city, all these buildings, you think, wow, there has to be more choice in my price point than I imagine. And the truth is approximately 70% of people rent in New York City. So you're looking at a lot of rental buildings. And remember then, of the buildings you can purchase, 70% are approximately co-ops, the other 30% are condos. Then neighborhood by neighborhood, it can change, and you might find, oh, I'm on Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue, these absolutely gorgeous buildings with big, huge, well-proportioned rooms. And then you might be looking at a condominium further north in this city where the rooms got small. There's a lot that goes into that. I'm always more than happy to have a conversation with you about just the history of how these buildings are built and how we lived at the time when they were built. Right now, we have digitized books, digitized music. We used to need storage for books and records, and you don't anymore, so you don't need as much space.